I know now that we're going to be doing a special promo with this dance, and I'm so excited because only the people that watch our video podcasts get to see our dancing. So it's always a good time. Welcome back to another episode of Living Luna, season 2.
Last episode of season 2.
So we have really focused in season 2 on having wonderful guests on. And today we're super excited to have our finale guest on, Amanda Salchow. And she is like... Salchow. I still said it wrong.
Yeah, Company of Sally.
Salchow. Everyone's going to remember it because I messed it up.
It's okay.
That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Okay? I did it wrong, so you can do it right, friends.
Yeah.
And she is also known as Amanda Lee Cobb, a actress and audiobook. Like, I'm so into this. I can't wait to ask questions. Audiobook artist?
Narrator.
There we go.
Yeah.
And she's done all of this incredible professional work out there in the world, but now she is launching this incredible company that is really about bringing families together and like allowing them to have this deep, heartfelt memory. And so that is just magic. We're all about uplifting people here and bringing people together in love. So we are so excited to talk to Amanda about this project. So welcome aboard, Amanda.
Hi, everybody. Hi. So happy to be here. Great introduction. Name right or wrong. Great introduction.
Thank you for your graciousness. I am so bad with pronunciation, and my name is mispronounced all the time. Safriana, I get Safira and Safarina and
yes,
Saffron.
I get called IKEA.
But names are important, and that's why I think it is so important to try and get people's names right. And so it's an interesting conversation.
I appreciate that, and don't worry, everybody gets it wrong. So I'm always saying it's Salchow, but however you want to say it is fine with me. As long as I know you're talking to me, we're A-okay.
So thank you so much for coming on to Living Luna. We are all about uplifting the others of the world and just uplifting the voices of different people. And you are one of our few features that has actually gotten to use her voice in a public way before, because you've put your literal voice out there. Mm-hmm. So how did you get into acting and just using your voice as like a professional tool for you?
That's a great question. Well, I mean, I think like a lot of us kind of in those middle school years, I kind of felt like a misfit and I couldn't really figure out where I fit, right? Like, you think about school back in the day and there might have been these little cliques, right? Or, you had the jocks and you had the different people or whatever. And I just never really fit. And when I found acting classes and I took my first kind of drama classes, I was like, oh, these are my crazy people. This is where I fit. And I always felt like acting was a way for me to, express myself and express my feelings and emotions in a way that I couldn't really express in real life, right? I felt like I always had a lot of big emotion inside me and sensitivity, and I needed a place for that. So like when I found acting as an outlet, it was magical for me. Like it just fit right in, and I loved it from the first minute I did, some melodrama in 6th grade when I was 10 years old, and I stuck with it, but I never thought I could make it a career. I don't come from an artistic family. It wasn't like I didn't know any actors. It never crossed my mind that I would be doing this in any kind of professional way whatsoever. Well, flash forward to college and I'm still majoring in biology, something else, and I'm taking acting classes on the side because I love it. And my acting teacher said, listen to me, you love this, you happen to be pretty good at it. Why don't you consider auditioning for graduate school? What's the worst that can happen? You don't get in, fine. You continue on your path of whatever you want to do. If you do get in, like that might show you, could open some doors for you. So I said, okay, I'll try it. I'm not expecting to get in, but then I did. And so then I went and the rest is history. So when I finished, when I got my master's from Yale in 2005, and And when I graduated from the Yale School of Drama, I knew like I wanted to pursue theater with everything I had. So I moved to New York and I started acting regionally and then started doing some Broadway. I was lucky enough to do some Broadway stuff. I wanted to stop being on the road because I wanted to try to have a family and like maybe meet someone special. And when you're doing regional theater all the time, you're never in one place for long enough, right? So I started doing, luckily, some understudying on Broadway, and that was really my sort of bread and butter for almost a decade. And I did meet somebody, and I did get married, and I did have a child, and at that time, I knew I needed to shift because that kind of a Broadway schedule with 8 shows a week wasn't sustainable for a mom, right? Or a family, or at least it wasn't for me. I know some people can do it. I could not do it. So I was really starting to move more of my eggs over into the audio basket. And that's how I kind of became an audiobook narrator, is I wanted to take my acting skills, but I wanted to use it in a way that was a bit more flexible and that I could potentially work from home because I was going to have this young child and I wanted to spend more time at home. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. I started doing that. And now the theater thing doesn't make sense. And I primarily have done audiobook work and continue to do that every day as sort of my main career paying the bills situation at this time.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that played out, how that unfolded.
Well, and that's so cool, like the flexibility there that you found a way to keep using this creative power of your voice in a way that worked for you. You didn't give up on like the dream of continuing to use your voice. You just found a new method that would fit your lifestyle better. A
Yeah,
lifestyle that was right for you.
Right, 100%. And you know, at that time, there was a new platform where you could, called ACX, where you could sort of you didn't have to have an agent, you didn't have to have a relationship with the publishers. You could directly reach out to authors, and they could directly reach out to you. And it was this wonderful sort of symbiotic relationship where you could literally put your voice out there, and people could find it and search for you, and you could make these relationships that you know, throughout books and series and things. So yeah, it's been a real joy, and it's a wonderful, I'm very lucky, I'm very blessed to have, you know, the career that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so cool to see artists of all kinds find success in it in their own way. Because, you know, as you were talking about your experiences, I was thinking about something that's been coming up a lot for me lately, which is creative wounds. You said you didn't really have like that family background of artists. So
Right.
it's kind of very unexpected for you. Did you ever face like people tearing down your creativity or tearing down your acting, and like you had to
All
push
the
through?
time. All the
Yes,
time.
tell us about that.
Listen, girl, when I finished graduate school, I was the only one in my class who graduated without an agent. Okay. And I remember my parents, my sisters coming to my graduation dinner, and I just broke down sobbing like at dinner because I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. Like, I didn't know where to start. I didn't have any connections. I was like, without an agent, like this is the whole point, right? Like you need somebody to like be getting you auditions. I had no idea how to do it or where I was starting from. And my poor little family couldn't help me, you know? So, I mean, in the end, it became a blessing because I learned how to do a lot of stuff on my own, and I learned to say yes, and I learned to hustle like you would not believe. You know, I was doing stuff for free. I was working for beer. You know what I mean? Like someone was like, do you want to go? Actually, that's a good story. A good friend of mine was a writer, and he said, listen, I can't pay you, but I wrote this thing and it's small, and they're doing a reading up here at New York Stage and Film. Can you get up to Poughkeepsie? Can you do this thing? Sure. I go up there, I do this reading. It was super fun. And it just so happens that Daniel Swee's boyfriend was up there with a different show that he was doing. So the casting director of Lincoln Center was just up there with his boyfriend and saw my show. And that's how I got my first Broadway show, which was my first show in New York, full stop.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So like, do you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's so much hard work, and there's also so much chance and fate and just like being at the right place at the right time. But yeah, I mean, and of course you audition all the time for things that you don't get, you know, right? So TV shows, TV parts, series, sitcoms, this and that, you're constantly being told no. So it's really hard in that way. You have to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and get back in the game, and it's not for everybody because it's a hard business. It's a hard profession in that way. And I got tired of it. So being on the audiobook side of it, I much prefer, quite frankly. Like I've really sort of changed and shifted as I've gotten older what I want out of life and my priorities and what my day looks like and what I can control and not control. And that's a big one. So for me, over the years, I've sort of let that go. And, that's part of not only the audiobook stuff, but also the starting my own business this year, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I'm like so excited to talk more about your business because it's such a cool idea. And I wanna save it for like the special treat at the end because I want to keep getting to know the genesis here. Like,
Okay.
Well, I also want to know like some of the details in terms of like in terms of the acting career and the audiobook career of like do you have any sort of like favorites in terms of like the favorite Broadway show or like favorite role that you had, favorite co-star or famous person that you ran into by doing this job,
Oh, totally.
favorite audiobook?
Totally. All right, get ready. So,
Okay.
favorite role I ever did was playing Baby in Dirty Dancing. It was the first national tour. I had never done a musical and I had never danced in front of anyone in my whole life. So
Be a musical about dancing.
I was freaking out.
I could
But I was
imagine.
so excited, but I was like peeing myself. I was like, how am I going to do this? Can I do this? Like it was insane. And I remember the audition, like I had they had me come in movement clothes. Okay, fine. And they were because I never thought I would get it, right? So for me, it was just fun. Why not try? So they're showing me this dance. And I remember just like laughing out loud because they expected me then with this partner to then like step away for 45 minutes and learn that dance and come back. And it was like, they were like lifting and bending and bowing. And girl, I was not flexible at that time. Okay. I was an actor. I was not a dancer. And I had tears coming down my face. And all I was saying was like, sorry. Like the guy was like trying to turn me and dip me. And I was having a great time, but I'm sure I looked absolutely ridiculous. And, the fact that I was hired for that was amazing and hilarious. And I learned so much because the run was a year. We did over 250 shows, 8 shows a week, Chicago, Boston, Los Angeles, living on the road, doing a show that was 3 hours long where I was on stage, I think 90 to 95% of the time. Just the stamina that took was completely new to me. Like it was really like being an athlete and training in the gym for all those hours and learning all those dances. And it was incredible. Like I look back on it now and it seemed like it didn't even happen to me. Like it seemed like it was a different person. But it was extraordinary. And then my partner, gorgeous Joseph Brown from the Australian Ballet, who'd been playing the Patrick Swayze character for a few years, was just a godsend, So he was a rock for me. He really helped me get through it. He was an amazing dancer, so of course he made me look better than I was. But yeah, I mean that was one of my favorite experiences, but also one of the most difficult. Like absolutely, like I said, the stamina for that, and when the rest of the cast would be going out and having fun, getting a cocktail, I was like, I can't. Like I'm done. I have to do this tomorrow, and I have to do it twice on Saturday. You know what I mean? Like that stamina, like really forces you to put your priorities in a row and be like, I am the show. Like the ship cannot go down. Like, so you have to,
What about pressure?
you got to really take care of yourself. So I learned a lot from that. And I also learned a lot watching other people in that show, the dancers specifically, because I mostly do plays. And so I'm not surrounded by singers and dancers most of the time. This was the one time that I was in this big full-scale musical production and got to see what they do and like what they put their bodies through and how they warm up and how incredible these dancers and singers are. I mean, forget it. It was mind blowing. It was joyful. It was difficult. It was all the things. And then you asked me about like famous people. I mean, I've met a lot of famous people because, like I said, you know, I understudied on Broadway for a long time, and so there's a lot of famous people, as you know, that can come in and out of that revolving door. Gosh, I'm trying to pick which one I should tell you. I mean, there was a time that I got to sit on Morgan Freeman's lap, and that was pretty cool.
Got to sit on the lap of God.
Yeah, we were doing a production of The Country Girl that was being directed by Mike Nichols, and Frances McDormand was in it, and Morgan Freeman was in it. I mean, it was crazy. Like,
That's crazy.
Crazy stars. And, you know, I was just the understudy to Anna Campbell, and I got to go on. And so sure enough, there I was, like right in the mix of those famous movie stars. And it's wild, you know, when that happens, when you're suddenly like plugged in, because you're not working with them during the rehearsal process, right? You're an understudy. So you're kind of on the sidelines, and nobody really knows you until they need you, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God. And they're seeing your face and you're acting with them for the first time. In a put-in or actually on stage, depending on, you know, what the circumstance is. And that's a wild career too, but.
Well, yeah, you know, I'm just thinking about the level of like resilience and humanity that you have to maintain throughout it, because we were even talking about before the episode. I never have like the fangirl response, because I'm a natural number 9, and like our gift is that we just see everyone as completely equal. And Kenna's a natural number 1, and they're all about the awe and wonder. Like every person is like extra special, and so like the famous people, like they have these people that they just adore. And I'm like, yeah, if I met them on the street, I'd be like, hi, nice to meet you. So it's just so interesting. Like to me, I'm hearing this. Wow, you really had to jump in with so much bravery and courage that you were gonna show up because that was your job, right? It doesn't matter who you're showing up with. You're just showing up as you and doing the thing. And like this narrative of how much you've really learned, like I hear it back then, right? With the having to sing and dance and like know the limits of your body. But then also you've carried that quality through to the present, because you're still recognizing like my life is changing. I am flexible and dynamic and growing. And what was important to me back then isn't so much anymore. Now it's my family. Now it's, you know, raising this family. Now it's putting my own work out in the world without other people having a whole lot of input.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely evolved and shifted and sort of changed into different things, as you said, like based on, you know, where you are in life and how your values kind of shift and change. What speaks to you anymore may not, you know, something that made me happy that I loved doing 5 years ago or 10 years ago might not be the same thing that's bringing me joy or comfort or security or whatever it is that I need in that moment, right? 5 years from now, we're in the present. So yeah, it's, you know, as an artist of any kind, it's challenging, even though I've had, you know, the success that I've had. You know, it's still very challenging to sort of make ends meet and not be in control of when you're going to get that next audition or next job and things like that. So there's a lot that comes with that kind of life that after a while just no longer worked for me,
Right.
where I kind of had to change things up a little bit. Yeah.
I can't even imagine. I'm going into my brave stage of life now, where I'm starting to like put myself out there more and travel for the first time in my life. And yay for me. And yeah, I'm already like 10 years in the future going, oh, I want to settle down. At the same time, you've lived a very exciting life, and you know, of a lot of travel and a lot of adventure. And so what is it like? This is something I know we're going to be talking a lot about in season 3. So spoiler alert, because we're going to be talking a lot about relationships and attachment and trauma bonding and just like core wound stuff in season 3. And I'm wondering, like, you've had to really adapt and change and be flexible throughout your life. And what have you learned along the way with like changing in front of other people and like being willing to say that's not for me anymore? Like, what would you tell people when they're entering a new chapter of their life and they're feeling like that tension from other people, expecting, oh, well, you're always going to stay the same?
Well, I mean, I think what I would say is nobody knows what's coming around the corner. And I can say that having just been through a divorce, which I never knew was coming, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I knew it was coming because I kind of asked for it. But I mean, right? When you get married, you never know what's coming. And
Right.
um, I think a couple of things, like you have to be willing to adapt and change to the current, and you're not always in charge of the current and how that's going to go and where it's going to take you. And, to the people who expect you to be sort of rigid, well, surprise, it doesn't always work that way. And luckily, I've been surrounded by a lot of, caring people who support me in kind of anything that I do. But, speaking of those sort of deep wounds and other things coming up for me, like when I first had my son, the choice between do I leave him for 6 months to do this Broadway show and never get to tuck him in at night, read him a bedside story, take him to school, pick him up from school. I couldn't do it. And I'm not saying that that's right or wrong because people choose what they choose. But for me personally, those kind of choices, I didn't know what I would do until I was confronted with them. So it was also kind of a surprise to me too, to say like, I actually don't want to take this job right now. I want to be here with my kid. And also things that come up with, tensions between the husband and how the marriage was starting to kind of unravel in a way that neither one of us could have expected. And then suddenly you're somewhere else where you're trying to figure out not only this relationship, but then how your career is going to change or pivot around the decisions you make around the relationship, So like there's a lot. I mean, I would just say don't be afraid of change because change is gonna come. You know what I mean?
I love how you like went in terms of saying like you were saying you used the term like for me personally, like you
Mhm.
were like I'm not saying this decision is right or wrong for anyone else, but for me personally, I think that's a huge like like an epidemic, at least in a lot of the clients that I'm seeing, in terms of the fact that they are kind of like reaching out, trying to figure out like they were told what to do by their parents of like this is the structure that you follow. Like society's like, this is the
Yeah,
correct way of doing things. And so like to be able to trust your intuition and like, recognize in yourself like this is what's right for me is is a valuable tool that like is like I'm so glad that like you have that tool in your metaphorical toolbox because it's like it is a really hard thing to do when we're in that like rigid state of thinking that we have to do what society or parents or family are saying is like this is the correct path, and you're like but
totally.
that's not what feels right for me, so
Totally. I
yeah.
remember when I was teaching at NYU for a hot minute, I was teaching at the Playwrights Horizons program, and I had a theater students, and one of my students was this young woman who came to me in tears on this after class and said, my parents, they're not going to support my doing theater anymore. Like they want me to become a doctor and like that's what I need to do. And she was so upset. And two things. One is, I felt, thank God my parents have always been supportive in whatever I wanted to do. What a blessing. Not everybody has that. But on the other hand, I said to her, listen, they can't take away from you your passion for theater, right? And life is long. It's longer than you think it is. So if you go and you get your doctorate and you're a doctor for a few years, you might end up loving it. You might end up hating it, but guess what? You have a degree. You can make that money so that you can then what? You can invest in your community theater. You can figure out your own practice so that on the side, like maybe you're getting involved in the theater community there. There are other ways and other options to kind of exercise that passion within you, and like don't panic yet because life is long. And she was 19, right? You know, and when you're in college, like it's, well, at any age those things can be difficult. But I felt so badly for her knowing that she was saying like my parents, like these people, right, they're not supportive of what I feel my dream is. And I said, like, I can really understand that. I'm sure your parents are terrified of you going into theater, but like, they can't quash that dream. Just hold on to it, right? And like, see how it unfolds. And I still think about her. I don't know what happened to her, but I still think about her and wonder where she is and how she's doing.
Fingers crossed that she's still following her dreams. Because,
Yeah.
speaking of the creative wounds that I was talking about earlier, like that's a creative wound, right? When we lean into our passion and our passion is something creative, whether that be visual arts or music or dance or theater or literally any other number of things we can create. Video game design could be an artistic career, right?
Totally.
Anybody outside of us saying like, no, that's no, you're going to be a starving artist, or no, that's not for you. That's not what this family does. Like anything like that can, for me, it was, oh, anime style isn't going to get you anywhere in life. So you need to start practicing portraits. And then I was like, oh, my style's bad, right? Like it can be any little innocuous thing that can knock us completely off of our
Totally.
dream trajectory. So you were a voice of hope.
Well, yeah, and you know what? We always hear these stories about famous people and how they were denied, they were turned down, they couldn't get anything, they couldn't get anybody to like their work. I mean, all these famous people, from actors to writer, any profession. And I find those stories really inspiring. So I just watched on, I don't know, Amazon or something. It was like Judy Blume, right? It was like I forget what it's called, but it's like the documentary on Judy Blume, the famous writer who, wrote all these young adult novels and stuff, but were somewhat controversial because maybe they mentioned masturbation or this or that. And she's an incredible writer. She's one of the best-selling writers of all time, and she was talking about how in the beginning of her career, nobody would buy her books. She could not get published. Everyone was like, you don't have a talent for this. Nobody wants to read your material, et cetera, et cetera. And it just goes to show, like, if you persevere and if you love it, keep going. And you may not have success, right? But hopefully you're scratching that itch, at least within you, to create or whatever that is.
Reclaim it, yeah.
I mean, I think that's the thing too, is like in this like capitalistic patriarchal society.
We talk a lot about that over here.
Yeah.
But it's like it's like the only way for you to feel the need to follow your dreams is if there is that external validation, instead of like the internal trust that you're like, I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. Like no one can, like the more you believe in yourself, like that will cause basically, like whenever people are like, screw the haters, like no one's gonna tear me down because I know that I'm like just following my passions, sort of thing. It's like that level of resilience, because it's still like you're still allowed to feel bad. Like rejection sucks. Like it's not like you all of a sudden become this like amazing, like you go into all of these different like auditions, they reject you, and you just wipe it off and go off to the next one. Like
no, you feel
there
it.
are still emotions happening about it.
Totally.
Like,
you're gonna feel each of those stings and each of those pinpricks. It's just a matter of like, what do you do with those feelings? Like how do you channel those feelings? Because you're gonna have those feelings.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You have to channel them instead of like most people try to bury them, and then
Right.
that's where the real problems happen. So.
And that's why you have a stable future as a therapist, because
I love talking about this stuff.
you love talking about feelings, and there are so many people in the world that need to talk about their feelings. It's true.
You guys are very lucky. You have an awesome profession. Awesome.
Well, I'm leaving the therapy profession to go fully into being the CEO of Living Luna and uplifting the stories of as many people as I can. And
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
exciting. Good
Yes.
for you. Wow.
I did my time as a public educator, and then a trauma therapist, and now I'm gonna write books and lead a business.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, Amanda, life is longer than you realize. Like the fact that you've had full career as a teacher, a full career as a therapist, and now you're not.
Now I'm gonna be a CEO.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're not even 35. Like,
Oh my God.
Life is long.
life is longer.
Life
than
is
you
longer
think.
than you think. Yep.
And flexibility, love and trust, in the words of Garnet from Steven Universe. Good song.
It is a good song.
When we're flexible and we allow ourselves to flow from thing to thing and follow our dreams wherever they're leading us, we can find the way through, right?
Mhm.
We don't always know how, but we do.
Yeah.
And that is, I guess, a gift of resilience, right? A gift of resilience when we can keep going as we find these glimmers and we find these new dreams. So I want to talk about your new company that you've started, because I saw this. You and I ran into each other in a group, a networking group, and I saw this project you were starting, and I was like, I need to get her on the podcast because it's just such a cool project. So tell us more about Sound Capsules and how this was born.
Okay. So speaking of evolving and things like that. So out of the divorce, suddenly I'm like, well, I need to double my income. I need to triple my income. I need to think about, what are my skills? What else can I do to add to the audiobook career? And there's something that I've been wanting to do for a really long time, and I hadn't known how. And Sound Capsules is my idea that was born out of an interview I did with my grandmother many, many years ago back in school. It was a school project. We had to interview someone close to us, and I chose my grandmother. And I had this wonderful recording of her, and she ended up passing away about 2 weeks after that. And when that happened, it was quite sudden. It wasn't anything that we saw coming, but at her funeral and at the wake, my father said, why don't you play this recording? Why don't you let it run? Which I did. And it was and has become such a treasure for us and for my family that we have this recording of her. And so my idea was, how can I get other people to do this? How can I get other people to understand the power of the human voice and how much emotion and personality and essence of a person it can convey, especially after that person has passed. And more than that, I just feel like today, when we're living far away and AI is everywhere, we're just not connecting with real people in real time. And I thought this was another great way if they could interview somebody. They sit down, they interview their mom, they sit down, they talk to their grandfather. It's another way to find connection, which I really believe in. And so this is how my idea of Sound Capsules was born, an audio heirloom that's like a time capsule where you record somebody. We try to make it really easy to do that. And then we kind of zhuzh it up. You can put some music to it. We can put some sound design to it. And we deliver it to you in not only an email file, but I also have this handy little box here where you have a zip drive in here, and you can plug it in, and it makes an incredible gift. And so suddenly, I just think it's a wonderful idea to have the voices of the people that you love, it treasured in a way that you can then pass down to your kids or your kids' kids. So what I'm doing is I've created this thing, and it's still a work in progress because I'm figuring out different packages and what's going to be good in the marketplace. But I wanted to have an option that wouldn't be cost prohibitive, So right now I'm thinking like, okay, I'll have a $99 option. Super easy. You can use your iPhone, you can use voice memo, you can record someone, you can send it to me. We will fix up the recording, and that just means take out all miscellaneous sound, make it sound nice, and we'll email it back to you, right? Easy peasy. But you can add stuff on. If you want a voice introduction of some kind, you can choose that. If you want original music playing, maybe their favorite bands of your granddads or your dads from the 70s or the 50s or whatever, we can layer that in and add that. And then you have this thing that not only you have forever, but you can give to your kids. It's a file, so you can email it to the entire family, right? So someone's wedding gift, someone's anniversary gift, Christmas, whatever. I just think like I'm getting goosebumps, not to toot my own horn, but I'm excited. Like I want people to be close with their family, have this thing, because they're never going to regret having it
Right.
once the person is gone. And I feel like most people understand that, because I do think that most people save voicemails and things like that. They kind of understand that idea. And this is just a way that you can take a voicemail off your phone and do something a little bit more specific to it, hold it in your hand, give it to somebody, zhuzh it up a little bit. And that's my business. Sound capsules.
I love
I
it.
love that so much. It's so interesting. Like, I knew what the concept probably was, because like the concept of just a time capsule in general is so interesting. Like you don't realize how fast time changes. Like I think this past year, this past year I didn't attend if they had any sort of ceremony for it, but when I was in 8th grade, I was the treasurer, not the treasurer, the historian for the
Yes.
SGA.
Yes.
And we had to do
Yes,
it was they created that. It was the first time they created that role. It was great. And but yeah, we said that we created a time capsule, and I presented it, and then we had it like set up like with like the different art pieces or whatever that people do and whatever. And it was supposed to be open this year, because that's 15
You're
years.
still such a babe.
15 years since 8th grade. Yeah.
Oh God. That's younger than that for me.
Yeah, like you guys are younger than me.
I'm rubbing the cradle here a little. It feels like some days.
Today's title episode will be like, Amanda's sound capsules, and also I can as a baby. Like,
Also, I can as a baby. Yes, but like this, what you're doing is so symbolic. And as a company, as somebody who's starting to do a little bit of business coaching on the side with like some local businesses and whatnot, the name of this company is killer, Amanda, because it says exactly what it is.
Thank you.
Because if you know what a time capsule is, which most of us do, okay, it's a sound capsule. It's capturing something in sound form, like just genius name. But the concept, it gives me goosebumps too. That's why I was like, I really want to have you on, because I strongly believe in this mission, and that's part of our brand, is uplifting missions we believe in. I have had so many clients, even in the last year, who have lost somebody dear to them, and they did not have a memento of any kind. And they've said to me, and I've heard them say, I wish I had a recording of her voice, or I wish I had a voicemail from him, or, just these like heartbreaking, I wish I had that, because you are so right. The power of the human voice. That's why I led this episode with this. Like, you're using your voice as your career, and the power of the human voice is tremendous. It holds an energetic vibration and a frequency that is completely unique to that human. And to be able to have something that captures that in a beautiful way can really that could last for generations, as long as they keep filing, sending that file along. Or
well, I'm actually working on trying to create a family tree, an audio family tree, so that if you wanted to subscribe to that, right, you could sort of start to populate that and always have access to that with a password for your family. So you could kind of, get a lot of people involved, your whole family, if you wanted to do that.
Man, just get yourself like involved with like Ancestry or whatever. Like,
Ancestry.com,
Yes.
man, you've got a killer.
23andMe.
Yes, I got to get up and running, and then I got to try to sell it. Yes.
But it's amazing. And I imagine, like, I'm just even thinking for those of us who don't have children, we could even do an audio capsule of like the dog bark or the cat meow or something.
Yeah, the thing is, the possibilities are endless. You can do each other. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm going to wait until I want to do someone who's old. You can do children. You can do yourselves now, and 10 years from now, you might do another one, and just like see
Right.
how you've evolved and changed. Like, yeah, the possibilities are really, really endless, and they're all like their own little treasure in time.
Yeah. I mean, I also really love this product. My undergrad was in audio engineering.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's been really fun. And it's been just so cool because like I remember when I did my internship, the person that my internship supervisor told me why he likes audio engineering so much, and he's like, it's capturing time. Like that's how you
Mhm.
capture a moment in time, is you're recording sound. And that's exactly what you're doing, is you're capturing a moment in time with the sound capsule.
Yeah, 100%. That's how my little a timeless moment in time logo phrase that's under my logo like came about, because that's exactly how I see it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us today. This, again, I just love getting people who I see doing something cool, and I'm like, everyone needs to know about this. Because
Thank
I feel the
you. I was
need
so
for it.
excited that you wanted me to come on. I was like, oh my God, that made me so happy. So thank you for even
Yeah.
asking me to come on and be here and to like share it any chance I can get to like share it with the world. Like,
Yes.
I
Well,
will take.
thank you so much, Amanda Salchow.
Yes.
Well
I got
done.
it. I did
Yeah.
it. I landed it.
Yeah.
We are so grateful for you and your time today. And all of Amanda's information is in the show notes if you want to check out Sound Capsules, if you want to watch the shows you were in the past, whatever, however you want to connect with her, the info will be there. Heck.
I'm gonna find you on Law and Order SVU.
Oh God, you can too. It's out there. I know it is.
Yeah. IMDb Amanda Salchow. You're fine.
No,
Yeah.
because we're
All
all
that stuff's
the
gonna be
other
under
name.
Amanda
You gotta
Lee Cobb,
rewind
yeah.
to find that one.
Yeah. Hidden.
Hidden. All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. All right.